Welcome to Game Changers Live from Miami, Florida. My name is Sergio Tigera. I'm your host. And each and every week, we bring you someone who has been a game changer in their field and who's touched the lives of thousands to get their perspective on their journey, their mindset, their struggles and successes so that we can inspire you on your journey. So let's get started right now. And welcome back to Game Changers Live, coming to you from our beautiful home studios at Florida International University's College of Communications, Architecture, and the Arts. Thank you so much for being a loyal listener and subscriber. We are now a top 2% podcast ranked globally by Listen Notes, so thank you so much. So my guest today is Chris Wright. He's the founder and CEO of the AI Trust Council. It's a leading, a crucial mission against corruption in big tech, government, and the risks posed with AI. He's got over 25 years of experience in entrepreneurship in the military, and his unique background as a U.S. Army attack helicopter pilot, civilian commercial pilot, and CEO of several successful startups makes him tremendously adept at navigating complex challenges. So welcome to Game Changers.
Yeah, great to be on with you. It's awesome.
All right, fantastic. So Chris, you've had a tremendous military career. You spent many years overseas. You've been an attack helicopter pilot. You've been in AI drone warfare. We're going to get into all of this because AI poses a tremendous opportunity, but it also poses a tremendous threat because I think we're getting into a period of time in our evolution and in the evolution of AI where we're at a crossroads, right? Where things can go incredibly well. They can also go incredibly badly. If we're not really aware and have a plan as to, okay, how do we monitor this, right? And I think you created the AI Trust Council for that. But let's start off with your military career. Tell me a little bit about that and how it led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so my background in the military started, obviously right after high school. Went straight in, actually became a combat engineer. And so did that in Fort Belvoir, Virginia for a little while, and then ended up taking an internship in around 2000 in Newport Beach, California, and worked for a company called Tech Coast. And so that's kind of where I got my tech background was, or first introduction in tech was there. And one of my jobs was to review business plans of startup companies that were seeking investment. And so I got to see a lot of the bright ideas that came from the public at that time who, really had no concept of what the internet was or, how it would be used in its current form. And so it's interesting because that actually led into basically what I'm doing now. But yeah, so I did that in Newport Beach, watched the .com bubble fall apart. And I ended up putting in a packet for flight school at that time, and always had an interest in flying helicopters, and was able to get selected for Longbow Apaches, and so I got to fly that aircraft for quite a number of years, and flew the Black Hawk as well, and did some counter drug work in Southern California flying, but ended up going over to the Middle East, deployed there for a period of time. So I really got a sense of modern warfare, what's going on with the technology, and really got to see a lot of it when I was a contractor in the Middle East. From 2010 to about 2020, I was a military contractor where we were teaching foreign students how to fly the Longbow Apache, and basically we were teaching them how to use it effectively in combat. And so through that time in the Middle East, I got to see a lot of the technology that's out there, and then was able to see a lot of the future technology that we're seeing now today really early. So I saw it back in 2012, a lot of the drone swarms, wow. A lot of the ground-based weapon systems that are autonomous, and so I early on saw, it was like, wow, this is changing the face of warfare completely. When you have systems, equipment that's taking human life autonomously with no human input. So that's one of the things that led me to where I'm at today. So,
and to that point, did that technology exist in 2012 that you can just program a swarm of drones to attack enemy targets?
It was not as sophisticated in 2012. The issue is they have basically put a camera. It's very similar to the camera that you have on your phone, but these cameras have facial recognition and the ability to collect data from their environment, and so those systems have gotten really really good since then, and so they're much more lethal today than they were back then. But that's what I'm seeing is this tool is for military leaders, for dictators, whoever. It is like the ultimate control tool because with these drones you can project power. It's very cheap. It's they're very quick. You have drones that fly 120 miles an hour. They're creative. They come up with like brilliant attack plans. They disseminate intelligence instantly amongst all other drones on the battlefield. So a lot of the
so they're communicating with each other.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like a hive mind. Yeah, so it's a hive mind. Once they learn one trick, they all know the trick. So then, so if you think you got a clever idea, you're basically training it. So, so these drone systems are engaging in warfare. Like for example, like in Ukraine right now, what's happening is it's basically they're creating a data set for combat, and that's a big piece of what's happening over there is that all the data that's being collected is being stored and different and used for different military applications. So right now in Gaza, obviously there's warfare going on there. There's a system called the Gospel. So it's not even a piece of hardware. It's actually just a targeting system. And basically what it does is it uses all available intelligence, signatures from, somebody's computer, whatever. But it's able to collect targets for military planners to be able to execute those targets very quickly. And so there's stories about in the past it would take months to develop a target, whereas with these systems that are AI generated, AI controlled, they're developing like 50 targets a day, with these things, and they're executing those targets.
Wow. But you said that how are they finding the target? Through their
through AI systems. So it's basically AI is being applied to intelligence gathering. And so you just, so it's basically like a hacking of the phones,
if they can find out where their computer, their phone is, they're likely going to be there as well.
Yeah, and then basically can take in all data from all. So even if like you have one guy who's like very careful and doesn't like, has a low signature or whatever, you basically have his friends and family that know like what he's like, and so you can through AI learning pick up all the details of the family and what they think about, and then you can apply that and basically come up with a pretty good estimation of what somebody's about. Based on all these different parameters, all the way down to like an eye movement, your eye movement, how you look at a page on a screen. You can determine human behavior from that, and so governments are now buying these systems and then using them. And so the one in Israel is called the Gospel. Kind of funny name, but it's pretty awful. And so the efficiency of killing, the efficiency of warfare, is just. It's getting really, really advanced, and so who's ultimately in charge of these systems is, and how we come together as a world to say, hey, look, like this is how we want these systems to be used. These are the limitations that we like. And now's our chance to say it. If we're gonna put a stop to anything, if we're gonna help steer these systems in a positive direction, now's our chance. So.
And it's interesting because as you were explaining the technology and the eye movement and gathering and kind of creating a data set, you can also see it on the business side, right? With data analytics and understanding how to target consumers and reading their movements, their behaviors, and so forth, so that you can sell them or you can target them more efficiently, more effectively. So perhaps it has its roots in military, but like anything, that technology gets disseminated down and can be used in a malicious way, with civilians and even in business, right? And competing companies. And, you know, like you said, there's a horse race going on with who can harness the power of AI better to learn more about their competitors and you know, gain the upper hand.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's the crux of the issue, really. I mean, it's what we have is a new toy. You know, we've discovered this really cool new toy. It's like a magic 8 ball. You know, it'll just tell us stuff. But as this toy gets enhanced and it grows teeth and claws and all these other sort of capabilities, it becomes a little monster. And it's like, oh well, we just created a little monster. You know,
Yeah.
and right now is our chance to say, hey, look, like, yeah, we see the potential for this to get bad. You know, and the issue that you know, this is why I'm here, is because I initially started the AI Trust Council to establish trust. You know, really just simply just to determine what is real and what is fake online, and that's a very difficult thing to do, and it's getting more and more difficult as AI starts to spread. But as I've gotten into the community, you start to see how the tech leaders are really not pro-human in a lot of cases. It depends on who you talk to, but I've met quite a few people, senior leaders in tech, who are admittedly, you know, not on Team Human. They actually they look at AI as in a spiritual sense, and they see the ultimate goal is merging consciousness, our
Wow.
consciousness, with digital system, and that can create immortality for them, and that's what they believe. And I've had long discussions with guys, and it's not like they're confused. They're really aware of what they're doing.
Yeah. And maybe
Type of thing.
you know, careful what you wish for, right? You see it in social media. You see it avatars that are very human-like that are now getting, you know, thousands of millions of likes and so forth and subscribers and everything else. And it's becoming more and more difficult to differentiate and understand, okay, what is coming from AI and what's real.
Yeah.
And my fear, you know, coming up with this year's political campaign is that there's so much divisiveness and there's going to be an additional, like perhaps exponential amount of it generated through the help of AI, right?
Yeah.
Through some bad actors. And so, you know, what role does the AI Trust Council play in this space, and who's on it, you know, and how was it formed? When was it formed?
Yeah. So I started it about a year ago, and started it with the concept of you look at big tech, you look at government right now, and you look around media, and it's hard to find people to trust. It's hard to look around and think like, oh, well, this person has a, you know, a profit motive or a power motive or something. There's always some you know, motive that might not necessarily be pro-human. And so you see that and you're like, wow, this is we're working ourselves into a really bad scenario when you have these motivations to compete with a new tool. You know, this it's really a gift that we've been given, but this gift can become you know, a dystopian nightmare if we're not careful. And so the whole idea is that you know, you need leadership, and you need people who understand it to be able to, you know, spread the word, and collectively as humans alive today, this is landed in our lap whether we like it or not, and it's our responsibility to get this right. You know, it's our responsibility to say, hey, look, like this is what we see coming. You know, we want good things, we want positive, we want abundance. You know, and all those things are possible with AI. But if we don't get this right, it's got the potential to end this ultimately. You know, I mean, there's a lot of statements from very senior leaders that are warning about this. You know, Elon Musk is one of them. Mo Gadot, chief business officer for Google Finance or Google Moonshot division. You know, he's warned about it to the point where he's saying, "Do not have children because this is so dangerous." Elon Musk says this is more dangerous than nuclear warfare. You know. And so if you take those statements, Jeffrey Hinton, Godfather AI, said he quit because of the risk, and the risk wasn't being taken seriously enough. You know, so you have an industry where the senior leaders are saying, "Hey, we're scared. We need regulation. We need help with this," and all the while, you know, everybody's kind of staying quiet, and so then you end up with this kind of trust dynamic. Well, who do you trust in a leadership position for AI? And that's where I came up with the Trust Council. We're recruiting firefighters, EMTs, commercial pilots, military veterans, and the catch-alls, humanitarians. And that's everybody. That's everybody who has done something good for someone else, someone who is considered a humanitarian by their peers. You know, the idea is you just need 5 people to endorse you, and then you're a humanitarian. And it's very similar to LinkedIn, where there's trust established through LinkedIn because you know who they're connected to. And so those connections can be used as a tool to establish a track record of honesty and, you know, truth ultimately. And then if you combine that with content that you're putting out on online, you know, like in a social media kind of setting, you know, people know that if you post to LinkedIn, your colleagues are going to see it, you know, and that has a financial impact on you. So if you start to appear as like kind of a wingding, wacko, or whatever, you know, your friends in your work community are going to see it, and then, you know, that will create a reputation. So the whole concept is, as humans today, we're losing our ability to have that base level of truth and honesty and understanding that one, you're in fact human, and then 2, that like the information you put out was actually your information. It actually came from you, and not some bot or some other kind of technology. And so that determination, it's the whole point of the Trust Council is to wrangle that and give the internet user some sort of clarity, some sort of sense of, you know, that they know what they're looking at is either true or false, or can be trusted or not trusted. And so that's a big thing.
So is there going to be a component of like Snopes where people can say, okay, is this, you know, fake news or not? Is this AI or not? Is there that technology out there like it can sniff it out and say, hey guys, you know, this needs a label because this was developed by AI? Or does that even exist right now?
It does. So that's actually what we're partnering with some of the best companies in the world that do the detection, that have detection algorithms that can detect, you know, fake or AI generated photos, videos,
right, and content,
that kind of thing, that kind of content. And so you can pick it out. It's hard in text, especially if there's not a lot of it. But you know, but for us, like we can start to see even in emails now, where you can kind of tell that it was a you know, ChatGPT created email or something like that. And so, you know, today we're actually creating the culture that we're going to be using in the future, you know, and kind of reminds me of cell phones when they first came out. You know, it's not like everybody's not glued to them now, but you know, it's early on, it was like everybody was just glued to their phone, and it became like rude if you do that. So now people don't, you know, do it at dinner tables and things. And so the ethics around AI are currently established. And so the more clearly we can, you know, look at this issue and understand the risks, but also the benefits, it's going to help us to thrive into the future and not, you know, take ourselves down just, you know, for being too excited about a new toy.
But don't you feel like it's like a David versus Goliath? You know, a single council can't take on this tidal wave of AI that's not only in the US, but I mean, just globally taking over. And we were talking about the fact that this year's elections is going to probably be even more divisive than ever. And a lot of it is propagated by AI and fake news and so forth. And now it's going to be even harder to tell the difference between, you know, what's real and what's not, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you drive a stake, or how do you police, you know, the ethical use of AI going forward when you have so many people using it?
Yeah, and that's really, yeah, the election is a critical piece. You know, this election coming up, 2024, it couldn't get more critical. I mean, ultimately, you have the United States in a leadership position with AI. I mean, China's, you know, right on our heels as far as their technology, but from a leadership perspective, it's the U.S. that's leading this whole thing. So I'm not seeing a lot of leadership coming out of DC.
Right.
I'm seeing a lot of corruption. You know,
especially not out of Washington, because they don't get it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they're in their 80s. You know, they have some you know, gee whiz kid in their eyes, you know, kind of saying, hey, you can, you know, here's this AI thing, and that gets into that split within the tech industry. I mean, what you have is you have you know, senior leaders in tech that are not, admittedly not pro-human, selling this equipment, and they are on team AI, meaning that they want the development of AI to the max without a lot of time for the public to kind of wake up and say, hey, no, we're not comfortable with this. And it's a religious point of view. It gets into spirituality, and that's a strange concept, because I was always kind of thought of AI and you know, as being, you know, just some digital tool. These tech leaders view it in a religious sense. They think that that AI is our natural progression, and then once we merge with AI, we can merge our consciousness with this digital cloud. We can then attain immortality, live forever in the cosmos. And I've actually had that conversation with multiple people where they talk about the cosmos.
Wow.
And then the speciating of human 1.0 into human 2.0. Human 2.0 being able to handle the interaction with superintelligence. You know, this superintelligence, it's hard to kind of wrap your head around, but ultimately the concept is like 1 billion IQ. You know, like somebody right today would be very proud to have like a, you know, 150 IQ. You know, Einstein was 160. Mogadot kind of talks about this, but he talks about ChatGPT being, you know, just that being 155, and that was about 6 months ago. Some of the things I've been hearing lately are 2000 IQ currently, and then, you know, you apply Moore's law to that, you basically have
it's just kind of
growth. So 1 billion IQ, extreme intelligence, and then it becomes like a thing like, oh well, we really have to look at how this equipment's being used and what applications. You know, so that's why I look at, you know, fire departments. I'm like, we've got an emergency. I mean, it's been stated as an emergency by the tech leaders themselves. This is an emergency. So I look at the fire department leadership, and so that's what I've been doing, is recruiting fire chiefs around the nation. We want to be more international, so we're trying to gather like-minded folks internationally to say, hey, look, like, yes, we've discovered cool stuff. Yes, AI is awesome. It does a million billion cool things. Got it. But we're not going to get to enjoy any of it if we don't use it correctly, you know? And so there has to be an adult in the room to say, look, big tech, you know, you guys are, you know, high as a kite on this new toy, but, you know, like, we want to survive the future. We want to move into, you know, 2025, 2030 in a positive way. We don't want to lose our humanity during this whole thing. We don't want to lose, you know, the family structure. I mean, you can look at TikTok and a lot of these other systems. It's destructive. I mean, the minds of kids. You know, people, I mean, it's nuts what's happening.
Yeah, the use of it, and especially in social media. I have a 6-year-old, and you know, my wife and I, a 6-year-old boy and an 11-year-old girl, and I am just scared to death about the mental impact that social media will have on them. And they don't use it yet, but eventually they will. And it could be, we've seen it happen around the country. The level of self-confidence of you know, their belief in themselves, and you know, people are committing suicide. It's tremendous, and it's a lot of it has to do with comparison to others and so forth. And you know, we're objectifying beauty and everything else, especially for young girls. It's incredibly dangerous. I see it. And as AI continues to get smarter and better, it's going to be just like it's targeting, you know, sites on a in war, in the battlefield. It's going to target, you know, young kids, right? You know, kind of adolescents and young adults that are still susceptible quite a bit. And so who's policing that? You know, they need to self-police themselves, right? The companies like Facebook and Instagram.
And meanwhile, you got shareholders, you know, you've got the competing interests, you've got, and all this stuff. And so you're asking a tech leader who's getting, you know, massively famous and, you know, super wealthy.
They're generating tremendous revenue from their ads and so forth, being more effective. And they're saying, okay, you're going to pull back on that.
Yeah.
it's hard.
It's really hard. Yeah. And it becomes this downward spiral. And really, I look at, aviation background, as a pilot, you're a safety professional. Every time you come up off the ground, you have the potential to kill yourself, right? So that it is a very risk focused job. So you're always kind of focused on how can we make this safer and
Mitigating risk. Yeah.
mitigating risk. And I look at the current situation and I'm like, oh no, this is an accident chain waiting to happen. It's like broadcast and big lights. It's like there is an accident waiting to happen. And so admitted years ago that this is going to be a problem. And that's it starts to get a little dystopian at a certain point, because you look at the leadership currently in the space. So it's coming from the EU. They've got the EU AI Act, and basically it's legislation that should limit use and limit how how far these AI systems can go. But what's happening instead is that they're hiding information. They're not sharing how much this is going to change society, and ultimately you end up with this guy Klaus Schwab, founder of the World Economic Forum, being the guy who's kind of leading AI ultimately. And I have a fundamental problem with that. And basically, like, I'm going to do whatever I can to avoid that. And there's a lot of the people that are like me that are just like, no, we're not going down this path, because their solution is depopulation. I've heard that multiple times, that it's a human problem that we have so many humans alive today. And the reason why they say that is because they look at human population as, basically you can have a lot of idle humans who don't have a job, don't have a purpose. These AI systems are brilliant, much smarter, much more efficient. And so basically we've worked ourselves out of a job. You got robotics that are coming on board now. And so you end up with an AI future where humans are not as necessary, and they look at that as a fundamental issue. So when you look at some of the things that are going on and the statements coming out of big tech, and it's like, oh no, we're interested in depopulation. We're interested in slowing the growth of human population. So that gets into some of the details of AI, which is life extension. Life extension is real. It's happening. And so basically our ability to live much longer is, it's a reality now. So in our future, maybe 200, 500, 1,000, who knows, how long we're going to, use this. But the idea of like extending human life beyond what we're used to, it's a fundamental shift in humanity. And that's not,
but really, it's right there. I mean, they already can, implant a chip, right? That could just be almost like a processor for you, right? And communicating with your body and how it functions and optimize the functions almost, right? And kind of regulate, how your organs perform and heart movement, heartbeats and stuff like that. You can see it. It's like right at the doorstep.
Yeah.
Right? The technology is there. It's just a matter of refining it to the point where it's effective and proven.
Yeah. Yeah. So and I look at our leadership. I'm like, well, these guys suck. Like everybody sucks right now. You can't really trust many people, in leadership. And I look at like, well, who in society can you really trust? And and that's ultimately we broke down like, hey, these are the categories of people you can trust today. And so if you build a council from those folks, and then they're the people that they trust. So the idea is once you're on the council, you can appoint 5 people to be your trusted council, and it comes from there. And
interesting.
So, what you end up with is a big network of people who all are connected somehow,
right?
Or all establish some level of trust between each other. And so that framework that's the core strength of the whole thing. It's like, oh no, like we can communicate, we can see what each other are doing, and then really it gives the ability to tackle some major problems. And so it's super powerful.
So anyone can join the AI Trust Council, so as long as they're nominated by at least 5 people.
So
right.
So we're so if you fit one of the professions, you're automatically in. So if you work for the Red Cross, Red Crescent, basically, Salvation Army, any humanitarian organization, fire department, military veteran, air traffic controller, commercial pilot. Those are the critical positions now that, like, we have, a society, we have a lot of trust in those folks.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have a profit motive for what they're doing. They've dedicated their lives to helping other people in some way, or at least being safe with human life. So what that creates is a data set of safety, of responsibility. And so in the future, that's the goal of the Trust Council, is to create a pro-human data set that can be used in future AI systems to keep them safe. And it's based off of actual human input, which is, getting harder and harder to find right now. Right. A lot of the training data that goes into AI is all based on, bot traffic and stuff like that. So it's not even human. So you have AI systems that are basing decisions off of AI generated fake human data. So it's like, so it's not even, so there's this authenticity problem going on right now.
Yeah. So where can people find out about the AI Trust Council?
So they can go to the AITC.com, theAITC.com. We've got a GoFundMe set up right now under that, the AITC, also YouTube. And then if somebody would like to connect with me, especially anybody who's, fire chiefs, anything like that, emergency services, hit me on LinkedIn, Christopher Wright, the AITC on LinkedIn. And love to add you to the network. We're building the site currently. We need funding, so but we're pushing ahead.
If you loved what you heard in today's episode of Game Changers, please subscribe and rate us. The lessons and the stories in these podcasts are immensely valuable, so I invite you to share them with a friend who needs to hear it. You may end up being the game changer in their lives.